Hey sweet friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Leslie and I'm so glad that you buzzed by. Today we're diving into the sweetest summer decor with a bee themed tiered tray that is sure to bring a little sunshine and a whole lot of charm to your decor. Whether you're decorating a kitchen, a coffee bar, or you would just like some new fun seasonal decor, this tray is full of BEE-utiful ideas that are super easy to recreate. Now, don't forget to stick around until the very end and I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So grab your favorite beverage and let's buzz on to crafting. Here's a quick sneak peek into all 7 of today's projects. I am super excited, and that will bring us to project number 1. Project number 1 is probably my favorite of this video, although there are some really cute ones this week. So we're going to start with a little ping pong ball from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to paint that black. Most of the supplies from today's video can be found at the Dollar Tree, and since we are still crafting out of our stash this year, I had all of them in my crafting supplies already. So we're going to go ahead and paint this ping pong ball black, and while that dries, we are going to take this little tiny terracotta pot. You can find these at Dollar Tree in their gardening section, and they come in a package of 3. They're 2-inch. So we're going to start with a black band around the top, and then we are going to make a couple more bands. Now you don't have to get super fussy with this. You know, rustic is such a cute decor theme and it also makes it less stressful to paint. So we're going to paint alternating black and yellow. And I am using the Maize color by Waverly, and I am also using ink color by Waverly. You can find those chalk paints at Walmart, or you can use whatever favorite paints you have. I'm going to be using Maize and ink for the entirety of this video, as that way then all my items on my tiered tray coordinate and match with each other. I'm going to make a little kind of a heart face on my bee's head, and while that is drying, I'm going to grab some of this wire. Now, I guess I lied a minute ago. You can't find everything for today's video at Dollar Tree because I have not been able to find black wire there in quite some time. And this is one that I bought on Amazon a while ago that I've been using. And once you decide how long you want your antenna to be, you can cut that piece, and then I just took a little skewer stick and swirled them around. Now this little mesh type ribbon, it is from the Dollar Tree. I also found it in the gardening section, and I'm just going to cut a section, and we are going to make just a little fold over bow with this using another piece of wire. So just fold it over and then scrunch it together with the piece of wire and fold that wire down. Then I'm grabbing my paint markers. Now this is the brand Paint Marker, and you can find those at Hobby Lobby. And we're going to make a couple of little circles for eyeballs and then just add a little white highlight. Took my little Cricut weeding tool there and poked a hole in the top and then glued down the antenna. And then I'm going to cover up the glue with a dab of black chalk paint, and once I've gotten that done, I'm going to grab some more hot glue and glue my ball onto the top of, or bottom as it were, of my little pot there, and then glue the wings on, and that's all there is to this. Super cute but very simple and easy, and you too can make a little bee just like this. What do you guys think? I hope you like him as much as I do. I just wanted to buzz in here real quick and tell you how much I appreciate you, whether this is your first time here or you're a regular subscriber, and y'all know who you are. I appreciate you taking time to spend with me each week. Now, if this is your first time here, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell below so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video, and you'll help my channel grow. Give today's video a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and comment down below. Now, let's get back to crafting. That will bring us to project number 2. I love this one too. I just think it turned out super sweet. So we are going to start with one of these little house forms from the Dollar Tree, and I have the honeycomb burlap fabric that I also bought at Dollar Tree. I'm going to unscroll that and cut a piece just slightly larger than my house, and I am going to go ahead and mark that, making sure that the fabric is laying the way I want it to lay inside the house. I just marked it with a pen. Now this will give me an outside edge, but I'm going to actually glue this onto the inside. So I'll show you here in a second how I'm going to measure that for the inside, just kind of rubbing that with my fingernail to create a little mark there, and then trimming that down. Once I've got that whole thing trimmed down, I'm going to grab some Mod Podge, or you can just use some craft glue, whichever you have on hand, and we are going to put that all over the chalkboard part of this particular house, so the inside part of whatever house you're using. And you want to get a good layer on there because we want that jute fabric to lay down flat. So once you've got it kind of pushed in there, then we're going to grab some more Mod Podge and seal it on top so that it is sticking in there really well. If you don't have Mod Podge and the glue is too thick, just water it down a little bit, and that'll be the right consistency for this part of the project. Once you've gotten that all sealed down with your Mod Podge or your glue and you are happy with it, we will move on to the next step, which is grabbing our ink colored chalk paint or whatever black color you're using, and I am going to paint all around the outside edge and that top edge of the house. I was very careful not to get any inside the house, and that's why I didn't paint that inside lip. We are going to take care of the outside edge of that burlap fabric though, with a piece of twine here in a minute. So I grabbed my Scrabble letters, and I initially wanted to say be happy, but I didn't have an H, and then I wanted to say be kind, but I didn't find a K, so I ended up with be sweet. So we are going to take some of that maize colored chalk paint and create a little stitching around the outside. Now, if you don't like your tiny little paint skills, you can also do a paint marker and do that. I just wanted this all to match with all the pieces of the decor, and that's why I wanted to use the maize. And then I grabbed a scrap piece of twine, and I am making that kind of the border inside, which covers up that edge from where I cut the burlap fabric earlier. Once you've gotten that all glued down all the way around on the inside, then we are going to start decorating up our little house here. I grabbed some of these little flower buttons that I have, and I'm going to glue one in the inside, and then I decided I didn't like it. It kind of faded into the background and didn't let that beehive fabric really give its best shout out. So I'm going to take that off here in a minute, and I'm going to grab another one of those flowers. Now I bought these off of Temu, I believe, and they came in a huge package, all kinds of different colored flowers, which I love, and that's what I'm using. But if you don't have these flowers, they have those kind of little sticker flowers and the little sunflower flowers that you can get at Dollar Tree, you know, just whatever small little flower that you have. And then I grabbed a couple of these little bees, and I'm going to put a few of those around. These bees I also bought from Temu, but I will have something similar linked down below from Amazon in case you're looking for something like this. And I just kind of put them all around where I thought they would look cute and got them glued down with a dab of hot glue. I'm using my Gorilla hot glue, and once I've gotten that all glued down, that's all there is to this project, and we are complete. I love, love, love the way this looks, and I love the way it looks on my tiered tray. So here's our final look at this project. You can see those little bees, they're just super cute. And you can see my stitching isn't perfect, but I love the way it turned out. What do you guys think? And that will bring us to project number 3. This one is even easier, if you can believe it. We are going to use one of these little jars from the Dollar Tree. I thought it kind of gave it a honeycomb look with those little raised bumps on it. But if you can't find this one, I would say use any of those little, sealed jars that you can find at the Dollar Tree. We're going to start by daubing on some paint. I'm using the truffle color for the lid. Now you want to dab this on instead of painting it, because since it's glass, if you dab it on, that means you only have to do one coat, and it will give good coverage. If you try to paint it on with a paintbrush, you'll have to do so many layers in order to make sure that you have full coverage. So it's just better to dab it on with a sponge brush. Now I am mixing some of that truffle color and some of the maize color to get kind of an undertone, and this is going to be used as the base color for my glass. And then I'll come in with some of that maize mixed with a little bit of peach that gives it more of a honey color look. But I wanted it to have some shadows, and so I'm going to dab this all over, getting full coverage all the way around until I get that kind of shadowy look that I'm looking for. Once we've gotten this all dabbed on, like I said, I'm going to grab some of that yellow and a little bit of that peach, and we're going to make it a brighter yellow color, but you can see in between, you've kind of got those shadows. So it kind of looks like a honeycomb. Then I took one of these signs and with the little clothespin on it, and I picked the clothespin off and then picked all the pieces of the clothespin off so we can glue this directly onto our glass jar. And we are going to use this as a little tag. So I'm coming along the outside edge with a white paint marker and just giving that a nice little coat of white. And then I will use that same white paint marker to write the words honey on the chalkboard part of this little clip. Now I did a little dots on my H and my Y just to give it a little fancy look. And then I grabbed some twine and I just tied that around the little knob on the lid. Once I got it all situated the way I wanted it to look, then I'm going to trim those little twine ends off and make them kind of short. Now with all my twine, I like to burn off all the edges, but you can skip that process if you want. I am using this Mod Podge spray as kind of a sealer since it is glass, and we did use chalk paint versus spray paint, which you could also spray this if you wanted. I wanted to seal it so we don't get, those little scrapey edges coming off. And that's all there is to this project. Super simple. And I decided mine should be used as a candy jar. So I grabbed a little bag of the Bitter Honeys. You can find these at Dollar Tree too, and stuff those in there, and you can still close it down. But I just think it turned out so stinking cute. I just love this little honeycomb so much. What do you guys think? Would this be something you might try to recreate? Let me know in the comments below. It really couldn't get any more simpler than this for a little project. And the lid still works, and it looks super duper cute. And that will bring us to project number 4, another little honeycomb, another little beehive. There we go. Oh, so I found these little pots at Dollar Tree as well. They come two to a package, and they can be found in the garden section. And I am going to paint the entire thing black. That way I don't have to worry about where I put my center. and we're going to use one of those twine rolls that you can buy from the Dollar Tree. You can see I've been using this one for a while, and I am just taking my hot glue and dabbing it all the way around to make that twine stick right to the terracotta pot. Now, of course, you know, you've got to take care of all those little strings and whatnot. But once you get, I guess, about an inch, inch and a half down on the pot, then I created a circle with my hot glue, and I am just going to run that twine around that circle and then just continue going all the way around. Now, as I do this part of it, we're going to run from outside circle to outside circle. So you can see where I pulled it down over on the right side, and we're going to run it all the way until we get to the left side of the circle. And then I'm going to dab just a little extra piece, and we're going to fold over our twine and then run it back in the opposite direction. That way we don't have to do all the cutting and refitting, and you know, it gives it kind of a little bit more sturdy look at the circle, so you don't have all those little ends. So we're just going to continue doing this all the way around that circle, and then once we get to the bottom part, we will just continue running it around the bottom of the clay pot. Now, I went ahead and put twine on the bottom of my pot because mine is going to stand up as a beehive, but if you wanted to use yours as a flower display, which I will show you, then you wouldn't necessarily have to put any on the bottom. But I did anyway because, like I said, I'm going to use mine as a beehive to look just straight as a beehive, and I'm going to do a flower display using that other clay pot that was in the package. So once I've gotten all the circles and everything done, of course, I'm going to run my lighter and burn off all those edges. There is nothing more satisfying to me than burning those edges. Now we're going to make some little bees to go on our beehive, and I took a small bead and a slightly smaller bead. So whatever size beads you want. This is just a bead, you know, a normal size bead. You can buy these at the Dollar Tree. And on the smallest bead, I'm going to paint that black. That'll be the bee's head. And on the other bead, I painted it maize, and we are going to use that as the bee's body. So once I've gotten the head all painted, then I'm going to go ahead and continue with my black and paint stripes starting at the center around this bead as the bee's body. So we'll do a center stripe, and then we'll do one stripe at the top and one stripe at the bottom, and that will be our all the stripes we need for this particular bee body. Now, if you use bigger beads, of course, in a bigger terracotta pot, if you were, then you might have more stripes on your bee's body than I did. But we're going to go ahead and do 3 on this size. And I want to say these are maybe 1/2 inch beads. Once I've gotten all the bee heads and bodies done, then I am going to cut a little piece. It's about, I'd say 3 inches long, and that's what I'm going to use for the antennas. So we'll fold that in half, and then I'll use my little skewer stick to twist it around into a little antenna. You can make your antennas any kind of way you want. I know sometimes I'll do the little balls at the top. Whatever floats your boat and makes you happy. Then I added a dab of hot glue onto the bottom of that so it fits inside that little bead hole. And we are going to add another dab of hot glue so the antennas stay in there. Then a dab of hot glue on the bottom of the head and glue it to the body. The next thing we're going to do is figure out how much I need for wings. So I kind of fashioned a wing and then took it apart. We're just going to do a fold over. So it'll be kind of folding it in half and then folding each side to meet the middle. And that's going to be the wings for this particular bee, since these bees aren't very long, aren't very big. So once you get it kind of made into a little figure 8, then you will add a dab of hot glue on there. I folded mine over to make it look like the bee was in flight. And that is all there is to the bees. Now I'm going to show you how you can use this and create it into a little floral display. So I grabbed some of this green floral foam from Dollar Tree and some greenery from Dollar Tree. This is kind of an ivy look greenery. And then I grabbed some little yellow daisy type flowers. I think that came from Walmart. And we're going to take off the lightest color flower. So I'm going to kind of arrange 5 of those little green stems, 4 around the outside edge, 1 in the center, and then I'm going to grab 5 of this yellow kind of, I guess it's maybe a cross between a sunflower and a daisy. I don't know, what would you call this kind of flower? Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. But I'm going to go ahead and put 5 of these in as well, just kind of getting them all around, and then I'm going to grab some skewer sticks and cut them down so they're in various different sizes, and just set my bees on top of those and set them inside my little floral arrangement. And that is one way you can decorate your little beehive, just like this. The next way that you can decorate the beehive is just to take those florals out and grab those bees, and you can just glue those bees all around your little beehive. I glued one on top of the hive and one on the side of the hive, and then one over there near the opening. But I'm not going to leave it that way either. I'm going to grab those 2 off the top and just leave the one toward the opening, and that's what I'm going to put on my tiered tray for my beehive. You can see I grabbed that one off the top and left a little bit of the yellow paint, but it's okay, no matters. Nobody's going to see it that close anyway, just you guys. So now I'm going to take those florals and make project number 5. So I left the florals all together, and I grabbed the second terracotta pot that was in that package. I'm going to stick some hot glue down in the bottom and set that floral foam in, and then I'm just going to arrange my bees in a couple of different places. So I just took 2 of those bees out of the 3 that I had made, and decided where I wanted them kind of on the fly, making sure that everything is just the way I want it in there. And then I grabbed some of this Spanish moss, and I'm going to throw that on top of the green floral foam so that you can't see the foam when you're looking at the tiered tray. And that's all there is to this project. Super simple, but I think it is so beautiful. What do you guys think? And it looks very sweet on the top of my tiered tray. Would you guys have put any of that darker color yellow flower in this, or would you have done it with just the one color? Let me know in the comments below. That'll bring us to project number 6. Now I have these old-fashioned clothespins, and the ones I have are various colors. So I pulled out the yellow ones, thinking that I would use that yellow as the stripe, and then I'd only have to paint the black on. So I'm going to start painting the black on the top, which I am going to say is the head. Once I've got the head all painted, then I'm going to use some more of that black, and I am going to start painting stripes. Now, again, I don't think you need to get extra fussy with this. I didn't, and I think that rustic look kind of adds to the charm of this little bee. And you can see, you know, I made part of it wider than the rest of it and tried to go back in and fix it. And finally I just said, you know what? It looks cute just like it is. So I tried to give myself some points on the top and the bottom, you know, that I could make it reasonably equal, I guess. But that didn't work out either. So we're just going to go with it because, you know, bees aren't perfect and we're not perfect. And so we are just going to say that the imperfect makes it perfect. Once I got down to that last stripe, I thought, you know what? I wonder how these are going to stand up, or how am I going to put these on my tiered tray? So I grabbed my handy dandy little miter box and saw, and we are going to take off those ends and make it flat, and that way then they'll stand up. But when I did that, because I didn't wait until the black was dry, I got black on the yellow part, which was fine anyway, because then I came in and painted it with maize, and it's now going to match the rest of my tiered tray. So I'm trying to figure out how long to make the piece that is going to be the antenna. And so I wrapped it around the little bee's head and pulled it up and came up with a length. And then I fashioned some wings, and we're going to do a 4-wing for this bee because it's a little bit longer, and determined how long I needed, and I cut 2 more of those out. So for the antenna, we're going to wrap this around the bee's head. We're going to wrap it around the bee's head, and then we're going to twist it so that it stays tight, and that little twisty part we will glue down to his head in just a second. But once we've gotten the antenna standing straight up, then I'm going to grab that handy dandy little skewer. We've used it a lot this video, and I am going to curly cue my wires to give my bee his little antennae. And I did this for all 3 of the bees, and here you go. I'm going to separate that out and then just dab a little hot glue where I did that wrapping to keep it around his head. Now I'm going to take that long wire, and we're going to wrap it around the bee's body once and then twice, and then straighten those out so that we have a good canvas to start with. Once we've gotten those all good and straight, then we are going to fold over the longest part of the wing, and that'll be for the left side. And then we're going to fold over the short part of the wing, and that'll be for the top of the right side. So we're going to do the same with the other. We're going to do the bottom wing is going to be the bigger, and that'll be on the right, and then the leftover wire will go to the other side to be the top. Once we've gotten those in there, I'm just going to fluff out my little wings just a little bit, and then we are going to flip him over, and we're going to add a dab of hot glue. Now for all the dabs of hot glue that I added on this that you can see, I am going to go back in with some black chalk paint and paint over those, and that way it doesn't look like a dab of hot glue on the back side, because on a tiered tray you can kind of see all the way around. And there are my 3 bees. I think they turned out super cute. And that'll bring us to our final project, project number 7. I like these little fairy gnomes. And so I decided to make them into little bee gnomes. I am going to start by grabbing that maize chalk paint, and mine is starting to get a little thick, and I watered it down just a little bit too much, so it's going to take me multiple coats, which I am not going to bore you with. But once I've gotten the coats of yellow onto all of the clothes and the hat, then I grabbed some black, and I'm going to paint his little feet with the black, and I'm also going to paint his hands. Now, one of them has a little bucket of flowers, which we are going to keep as a bucket of flowers, and the other one has a little shovel that he's holding, which I'm not going to bother painting because I'm going to put a little bee on that little shovel. But I'm going to go ahead and paint his little shoes black, and then set that aside to dry. On the little flower gnome, I didn't show you, but I took a moss color and painted the greenery on it because it's kind of that fake weird green that doesn't look natural or normal. So once I've gotten the little gnome's hands all painted black, then I'm going to go in on this one, and I am going to paint bee stripes around his hat. So I'm going to do 3, one at the top, one in the middle, one at the base of the hat. And then I'm going to come in and paint some little polka dots on his clothes, and I'm going to use my black paint marker to do that. On the other gnome, I am going to do his hat with the polka dots, and his body will be stripes. So that way they're kind of coordinated but opposite. I love this look, and I love the way these gnomes turn out. And if you're looking for just a really cute little accessory to your tiered tray, I think this is the perfect one. And the thing is with these gnomes, I mean, you can kind of make them look any way you want, or you can leave them just the way they are. But I think it makes them look a little bit more upscale if they're painted versus that kind of plasticky look that they have when you pull them out of the package. What do you guys think? Would you have painted these gnomes, or would you have left them alone the way they come in the package? Let me know that in the comments below. Once I got our little bee stripes and dots on there, I'm going to grab some truffle chalk paint, and I am going to paint that little flower pot so that he has the same aesthetic going all the way around him. The next step for me was to paint his beard white now to make him look more like a gnome and less like a little elf and creature or fairy creature, because they're for the little fairy gardens. I'm going to paint everything except the center of his face. So I'm going to paint his ears white so they blend in with his beard. I'm going to paint his mouth white so it blends in with the beard. And then I also painted the face in between where his mustache was and the beard white so that it all kinds of blends in. And then all you have are the little cheeks and the nose and the eyeballs on our little gnome here. And I added a couple of these little bees, and I think they turned out super stinking cute. And that brings us to our final look at all of today's projects. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a little bee on here that I did not create today right in front of my little honeycomb bee suite. There he is. He was created a few weeks ago when I did a bead video on all the things you can make with beads. And so I will have that video linked in the comments down below so that if you didn't see that video and you'd like to recreate that bee, you can find it. What do you guys think of all of today's projects? Which one or ones are your favorites, and which one or ones would you like to try to recreate? As always, I love to see y'all's creations and recreations, so don't forget to send me your pictures to HappyTuesdayDIY@gmail.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around until the very end, here's your hint on one of next week's projects. You are going to need some paint stir sticks. You can buy these from Home Depot or Lowe's or your favorite hardware store. And some nautical rope in the white color from Dollar Tree. But until then, make it a great day and Happy Tuesday!